you can use this framework called Ionic. It's very quick, and you can build the whole application in like just JavaScript. And so doing something like this walks you like step by step through like the application process. So, and then you basically like tell it, you know, the kind of app you want to build. I guess you can pick an icon for the app, and then you pick like the framework that you would want to use. But this is all in JavaScript, so you don't have to like use like Java for Android or Swift for iOS. You don't have to use a bunch of different platforms, and they'll also help you set up like the database as well. Anyway, this would be like an option for the app sense. But so for as far as the questions go, I know in particular, I think Stack Overflow has some kind of like on their website. And I want to say, I mean, there's a bunch of repositories where let's see, would that be it? Well, this is just kind of public questions. There's a bunch of sites like this. I know one's called, or it's called like Hack. HackerRank, yeah. Yeah. 3.5 years ago or something like that. They had me actually just use this website. So I like they gave me like a login, and they gave me like a portal for their for their interview essentially, and it had a host of questions that they had like selected from different categories. I mean, it isn't always this cut and dry. Like most of them are going to create their own questions. But for example, if we take a look at one here, I want to find like a pretty good one. I feel like probably somewhere maybe in here or in data structures, for example. So if we click this one, this is probably a pretty simple one. It wants me to sign. That's another one. Another reason why these are fun. I think the leak code is another one. Let's see. I don't think you have to sign in for leak code. Kind of looks like you do. Oh, there's one called, I remember liking this one. Now there's tons of these sites though, in general. Let's see. This one called CoderByte. I think I remember Code Wars, but there was one in particular, Code Academy. I think it started with an L. No. Oh, Euler. Project Euler, yeah. Okay, this one's free. These are somewhat challenging. But, you know, there should be, I think, problems that are like perfectly adequate. So a lot of them will be like this. You can kind of see, like, just based on the names, these are like super mathematically oriented. I tend to prefer the ones that aren't. But like, so Celeste, like what I'm imagining, like for, you know, a scenario where we like worked through something like this. This one's quite mathy. Oh, I kind of like this actually. This is kind of cool. Yeah, okay. I think this is like achievable. I don't think this is too radical. So yeah, I mean, but this is how a problem would be presented, like in an interview context. To answer your question, Moses, you know, this is something I'm familiar with at least. You know, they might present this part a little bit differently, but for the most part, it's going to be pretty concise. It's going to be written out like this, and yeah, then it's going to ask you to kind of like evaluate something based on the problem context.
Is that timed?
What do you mean timed? Is it timed? Oh,
like the whole, yeah. Like they just give you 5 problems, or?
I think it totally depends on the interviewer. So like, for instance, when I had to do this, yeah, these are all like sign up based now, which is, I guess, like a big move towards the kind of marketplace that like this is kind of like representing now. I mean, there's like a ton of people doing this like sort of coding challenge kind of thing. How did I get to that other website? Yeah, I don't even know how I got there. But anyway, yeah, so like for this, it was timed, I'm pretty sure. Like I had, like through the website, they can do all kinds of constraints and stuff on your problem solving. They can like see like, you know, they can see like how long you spend on each individual portion of the kind of like challenges. The interviewer can, and then they can like they can even, I think, like join you or like code with you on it. Like they have a view that you guys can share, so you can see their cursor and they can see yours.
Wow.
So, yeah, but this isn't the most common. I feel like the most common is, yeah, just a typical whiteboard sort of situation where, you know, they present it to you and you have a piece of paper. Usually they don't want you to like necessarily code, like write code out. But this was more of like a pre-screening. So they were like, I'm going to send this to you, you know, basically to omit candidates that like, you know, couldn't even get that far, I guess, like to complete a pre-screening. But most situations will be like this. And yeah, time, I've never had anything egregiously unreasonable. I've had stuff that isn't super thoughtful, but yeah, for the most part, questions have been like, you know, they're basically going to keep asking you questions until you're done, like until like time is run out. That's how I've usually seen them set up. Yeah, so like if it takes you an hour to do one problem, that's not necessarily bad. It just means maybe you haven't seen that kind of problem before or something like that. But as long as you work through it, you know, it's pretty flexible. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this with a handful of people, Celeste, like it gets brought up when I'm, like when, because most people that I talk to or whatever that are like kind of like getting interested in coding, they're like, they hear about this side of kind of like the interview questions, and that's what a lot of people seem to be doing, is like practicing these. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or.
Yeah, I never saw it before, but I actually, it's very interesting. Like, it's very interesting. So I think, I mean, we can talk further, but I think it's worth it to maybe try and see what other people think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I for this class if you need to do like just interview questions, but something kind of like this, I guess, that has like logic puzzles would be kind of nice, I think. Because otherwise, I mean, I'm going to be, I guess, potentially learning other languages on my own, but I don't know if every week I'll be, tuning in to work on one single project for this class. Like, I don't know how much more I'm going to be doing. So that's just what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think if we did the app, I think it would really be good if it could be like spread across only 1 to 2 sessions.
Okay.
And yeah, do you agree with that, Celeste?
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is we don't have to think in terms of like start and finish an app, but can be the beginning of it, like put that seed in, like in terms of curiosity, like people can know more and then they can learn in their own after, or they can, this is kind of like not only like they learn to code, but also like what the space is for. It's kind of like a step in, and then after that, if they want to learn more, they can actually, we can maybe find another resources where they can go and find or learn more.
Yeah, I think that I think that could be like encouraging. I don't think people would get too lost. Yeah, I know there's this, so we could do it this way actually and kind of get around. Not training. Okay, and so you don't have to make an account to do this. I think this could be pretty good because all you need is like you basically download this. Oh, and then they have a tutorial for the terminal. Oh wow. Okay, so it looks like they kind of detail just general. We've kind of done this before, this whole talking about commands and stuff. It was a long time ago though. But you know, I could gloss over something like that and just go straight to, you know, kind of like hopping into this. This basically goes and grabs like their packaging environment. And then this, they have a ready-made app actually called Tabs that's part of this package. So I assume probably looks exactly like this. So we could do something like that where, yeah, we just like basically spin up this, like I just quickly detail like, all right, here are the steps I took to get, you know, here. And now we're writing some code. And then the next thing, we would want to just get it to, you know, the point where it would be what's called publishable, which is like you turn this JavaScript into like code that can run on the phone.
That's a good idea.
You can do that in 2 sessions?
It's pretty fast. Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, I mean, not the, you know, obviously writing your app logic and all that stuff, like whatever you want your app to do. Hopefully that's what we would be spending our time doing. So like using their API, for example, to like, you know, I don't know, maybe we can like make a note on the phone or something like with your notes app, like maybe we can save something to the notes app, or probably a better example would be like, looking at pictures from your photo gallery on your phone. Probably be something that you could do with the kind of like API that they have available, like within this, or like the resources that you can use. But then, yeah, if you want to port it to the phone, yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point of these like frameworks, is like, it's supposed to be trivial. It just takes, yeah, a few seconds to build the application code, and then it's all automated. You don't have to like, and then, yeah, it just ports it to the native environment for the phone. So whether that be Android or iOS, yeah, that's what this is. Here is their native API. Yeah, and it looks like they have tons of these. I guess these are like the sort of plugins to let you like interact with the different like sort of services that the phone provides. Yeah, so here we go. Here's a photo library. So they just provide you a plugin for this, and then they're showing you the JavaScript code. This is specifically using the Angular JavaScript, so like library. But they're showing you the JavaScript code that you would need to basically, yeah, have a photo library in your app that you make in JavaScript. So you could like delete all of this. This is just logging information, right? Like we're familiar with console.log. So really all it is, you know, if you delete this, it's just this here. So, you know, they're grabbing this photo library, you know, library that they imported here, Ionic native photo library. And then they're just like referencing it. Yeah, so I mean, stuff like this could be pretty cool, because yeah, I would show you at least, or expose you. You know, I imagine not a lot of people know about something like this, like Ionic. Kind of like you were saying, Celeste, like, you know, people just don't like necessarily know what their options are. Yeah. I kind of like the idea of doing both, the problems and the app. Yeah, the problems would definitely require, you know, me just kind of working through the problem ahead of time. This would take a little more effort. Like I would want to have a pretty streamlined process for everyone.
Yeah.
To make sure it's like super smooth and they know how to get set up. But I do like this a lot because it's super fancy and like really cool once you yeah, the only thing is I don't I wonder if we could actually get it on a phone. That would be cool. I don't know how to do that though. But I could look into that, and that would be pretty cool if we like made an app and then I like put it on my phone. That would be pretty neat. I think it's pretty straightforward though, because Apple lets you like have test apps that like they aren't on the App Store. You can just like make an app and just put it on your phone from your computer like that. Yeah, I can look into some other ones too. And I can also look into some more like kind of, I really thought Stack Overflow, it's like, I thought they had like a section. Oh, now I'm getting like, Now I'm getting like the questions that if you were to work at Stack Overflow. Something like that. Well, someone asked this. I see. I used to use this one. I remember this. Yeah, this could be a good one too, because it's also, you don't have to make an account. Yeah, this is all in Java or Python though, but that's okay. And there's not a lot of them, it looks like. Oh yeah, it hasn't really been updated in a long time. But anyway, yeah. I think that's a pretty good like set of ideas to go into for next year.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Okay, cool. Do we want to spend the rest of the time kind of finishing up some less material? Or yeah, or Moses, did you have any questions in particular? I mean, I don't have too much that I wanted to kind of address, and so maybe it'd be a good opportunity to like, if you had any questions or anything like that.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right. Cool. So I will keep these in mind. And yeah, I'll definitely follow up with you, Celeste, and I'll let you know, Moses, like what we end up doing for the beginning of the year. But
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, yeah, let's go back to CodePen. So I'm just going to leave this open. I'm going to minimize the HTML and the CSS windows here because we're not going to need them. So we're kind of just picking up where we left off. So last time we talked, we kind of left off talking about some of the primitives that JavaScript lets us use. Primitives being like a very basic data type that JavaScript is going to let us work with when we want to store data. So we talked about number. We talked about the number. So if I say let number, a number might look like this. Open the console here because again, I'm going to use the console to kind of like just quickly view data we want to print out and check on. So this is also a primitive number type. And actually, JavaScript lets us do something relatively advanced. It's called type checking. I think if I remember correctly, it's with this type of keyword. Let's check and see. So if I do this console log here, I can say type of number. Yeah, right. So we get what we expected, this like primitive reference. It's called number. So when I print this, basically I'm asking JavaScript to tell me which primitive I'm actually working with. So in this case, we have a number. If we change the setter that we're using, or if we change what we set the value to, in this case, that's going to change our like underlying type, because JavaScript is a runtime like interpreted language. So it's going to make those assessments like when we actually run the code. And for Maddie just joining us, we haven't done too much yet, so we're just talking about some types in JavaScript. So in this case, if I if I create this number and then I print it, we're going to, oh no, they left. Anyway, if I print,
I was about to say hi.
oh, maybe I got spooked out. Maybe I called them out a little too much. So if we change this here just to be kind of the type we have in mind, like a Boolean, we're just going to change the value. I don't have to say, ahead of this, like what type I want to use. I just change the value that I use for that variable, and JavaScript will pick up on that type change. So, oops. So all I did was print out the actual value. But if I use this type of keyword and I print that instead, so we get Boolean. So this is another one of JavaScript's primitives. So we kind of continued with that, and we wanted to talk specifically about Booleans because Booleans are going to lead us to basically make robust programs that can kind of like make decisions. So if we want our program to be able to make decisions, we need to be able to use Booleans to control what's typically called program flow. So program flow is like doing something conditionally, or more in a more detailed way of saying it's like executing code conditioned on certain statements. So like only execute this block of code if this statement like it makes sense, or this statement in particular for using Booleans and using JavaScript, if this statement is true or it's false. So we know that the primitive Boolean type in JavaScript it's going to give us two options. It's going to give us either true or false, and that's it. So if I wanted to set up a simple flow from some of the stuff we learned last time, I might say, is my cat outside? And I'm changing the way I name my variables here. I was doing kind of like this style before. This is called camel case. This is a really common convention, but so is this case. This is called snake case. You can kind of guess why it's got this like kind of underscore spacing here. You can do either with JavaScript. The only thing you can't have really is a space. Some other special characters, like you can have like a backtick. This is called a backtick right here. This is used for other purposes, particularly for kind of special strings, which are called string literals. But neither here nor there. Basically, you're limited to the kind of variable or the kind of characters that you can use for your variables. You also can't use hyphens. Okay, so my cat is outside. I'm going to say that's false, just to start off with. And then what we learned last time is we can introduce kind of if statements to kind of use this parameter to take certain actions or not take certain actions. So if I wanted to print something with my program telling me that my cat was outside, if I just print it like this, like directly after my variable creation, there's nothing preventing this from running at any point, and it's certainly not going to prevent it from running based on the value of this statement, like is my cat outside. So what I can do is I can add an if statement, this complete portion here being the if statement, where this is the sort of statement or condition that the is going to be evaluated for, and then these braces that's the scope of our statement. So essentially the code that we want to execute based on the above condition evaluating to true. So if I wanted to, so I'm copying this and pasting it here. If I wanted code to execute based on the value of this variable, I would just include it inside the scope of this statement. That's not super clear, I think, is this. So I'm going to add a comment, is true. So really what's happening here with this if statement is I'm evaluating it implicitly as true. So like the result of this statement, if it's true, so if, and then this inner text is true, then I'll reach this code here. If I clear this and I make a change, something like that, you'll notice like there's no output in the console. That's because this statement is false. It's just a variable assignment. If I change it, excuse me, if I change it and update it, I'll get the print now. So what we talked about last time is like we can use some operations, and we can use other if statements to build like some more complex logic. You know, specifically, if we want to condition some code to execute on multiple multiple like Boolean conditions. So is your cat outside? And then is my door open? Say that's true. So with if statements, we can start to build like sentences so that specific pieces of code will execute. Our stack talked a little bit about last time is just by nesting. So what we could do is if we want to say, let me try to talk about the sentence first. So for example, I'll just poll for anyone who wants to volunteer here, but let's say my sentence is, I want to say that want to print when both my cat and your cat are outside, and my door is not open. Okay. So just a quick poll. First of all, how would I check just this part with an if statement? So I want to print when my cat is outside and your cat is outside, and that's what I want to print. So does anyone have any thoughts on like where we would put the if statement that we kind of need to check to evaluate this?
No.
That's all right. So basically, we want to print. We want this statement here, right? We want this statement to run and print the following. So we really want to print, you know, this, and I mean we could print anything, but basically we want to print this when this is true, really. So how, like, where could we put an additional if statement to check on this value, or sorry, this value is your cat outside, so that when this printed it was true. Go ahead.
You can put that inside of the the brackets of the if statement that you have there.
Right here?
So on line 9, or yeah, on line 10, I guess within that if statement that starts at 9, if you can put, yeah, another check for a true or false statement.
Okay. So we'll put that check. And notice it gives me an error, by the way. If you just leave an empty if, that'll give you an error. It doesn't. It always expects a statement. Okay, so let's copy the value. Okay, cool. So if we notice, so I made the change, but we still have this printing. But we know that this is true, but this is false. So this shouldn't print. So we need to make one more change so that this will print.
Doesn't that need to be inside of the
Yes.
is your cat outside if statement?
Yes, exactly. So we remember that this scope, and I guess that's kind of like a lesson within there. This set of braces following our statement is always scoped to the one immediately like before it. This is scoped to the one immediately before it, but this is inside of this statement's scope. So this statement is in the scope of this statement. That seems like, I think, pretty intuitive. But we can kind of like introduce some scenarios where maybe this isn't so clear. But I think for now, so this is good. So if we clear this, and let's go ahead and make an update, just a comment. So shows that it updated, and look, we have no print. So that's what we expect, because my cat is outside, but your cat is not outside. So if I update this to be true, we should get a print, and we do, yeah. Cool, so how would I build? Well, I think it's pretty clear from what we just did, right? If I wanted to build this extension of the logic. So, both our cats are outside and my door is open. What if I wanted to say or well, yeah, we'll say or, and we'll just leave it as my door is open. So if I wanted to say or here, how would I build this statement? So both my cat and your cat are outside, or my door is open. And this is our value here for that. And just with if statements, right?
What was the question one more time?
Okay, so the question is, we basically want to print the following. And really, we want this to look like this, so it's kind of clear how we're getting. So cat is outside. Maybe we'll move this up here to kind of say, my cat is outside. Okay, so right now, the print out sequence of events for our program is, we know that my cat is outside, your cat is outside, and my door is open. So those are all true according to the way we set out our program, except this is kind of misleading because this statement isn't conditioned on anything. And what we want to kind of like be evaluated by our program, like in this kind of like fake program we're building, that is going to tell us, and will only ever tell us, this program will only ever tell us that either both my cat and your cat are outside, or it will tell us that the door is open, like my door is open. So we need to add an additional if statement that can tell us whether this is the case. For this program to like be complete, I guess. So we have ands covered here, I guess. So like an and, right, is just a nested if statement. So like, if this is true, then we know that if this additional statement is true, and we get to this point, we're basically saying, I know that the above is true and the scope above that was true for me to be here. That's why we can kind of like faithfully say that this is equivalent to this and this being true. Right?
So what is the thing that you want to print? Because it says, I want to print when both my cat and your cat are outside or my door is open.
Right.
What do you want printed?
Oh, okay. Well, we can print whatever we want, but let's say we want to print my door is open when my door is open.
Oh, okay.
But only if my cat and your cat like are not outside, right? So, well, rather, I guess maybe the better way to say it wouldn't be or, but it might be like, well, no, yeah, I think or is okay, yeah. So sometimes I guess the phrases for these logical sentences can seem a little weird, but what I hope this is reading as is, so, if my cat and your cat are outside, print that. Otherwise, print whether this is true. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe if I put them on separate lines like that.
Yeah, okay.
And so the way that I kind of think about this is like, I have this series of cases that I'm like elaborating on with each individual if statement, and I'm thinking about like whether some piece of code will execute following that statement, or whether I'm going to like go around that statement. So you can kind of think of like an evaluation of a statement, like when you get to this line, any line at this point is basically prefixing with, like this is also true, like the above is also true, like given the above, which is true, the rest follows. In our case, I think what we
So
might.
do you? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Do you want I guess the statement starting from line 10 through 16 to go inside of the my door is open? Like if statement, if my door is open?
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're saying, so we'll take this. We'll say if my door is open. Do this. So like that?
Yeah, that's what I have, I think.
stuff here. Okay. So what happens in this case is, let's clear this. Okay. So.
Oh, never mind. I guess it would just print. It could print it all, I guess.
Right. So
okay, never mind.
This is equivalent to is like saying this is the equivalent of saying like my door is open and my cat is outside and your cat is outside. But it will also print this scenario. And it will also print this scenario, which kind of, no, yeah, right. I think that's a kind of the limited way to express this. Yeah, which I guess this is the most concise way, because then you would decide whether these are false. But the interesting thing about this is like it's really almost like this, which I guess is what I'm kind of like leading up to. Is that this is like really hard to do with these if statements like this, because you're not actually saying this necessarily. You're saying more like this. So
yeah,
right, like because
I don't know if you can do it with if statements, but you can use an else statement?
No, yeah, that's perfect.
Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I thought we had to use an if statement.
No, yeah. No, yeah.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah, but I don't think I was super clear about that. But I was hoping that we would realize that we're missing tools, basically. So what this is going to say is like, this is going to condition on whether, well, let's see what this does. So what does this, so you introduce the idea of the else statement. So an else statement is basically going to do kind of like it reads. When this evaluates truthfully, we're going to go into the scope of the if statement. But if it's false, we'll reach this else. So if is true, if the, whoa, my session expired. Oh, yikes. Okay. Oh. Hold on. It's just copy paste. Is it gonna lose all my data? Wow, it was gonna totally kill all of my data. Okay, well, good to know. It will log you out. Okay, so what we're saying with this like if else combo here is like if this is true, okay, else if the above is false. Okay, so now we can say something a little more, we can basically condition on this being false, which we couldn't do before, which is our if statements. We can only, like, if statements evaluate for truth. And you know, we don't have that tool, but now with this else statement, we can condition on something being false. So we know now, is my door open is false here. Let's restructure some of this. So let's take this, I'm actually going to put this here instead. And I'm going to move this. And I'm just going to delete this. And I'm going to put this back here. Okay, so now we're just conditioning on, is my cat outside? So I want to print when both my cat and your cat are outside, or my door is open. Okay, so if I get us to this point, right? If my cat is outside and your cat is outside, then we're gonna print what we're like accustomed to seeing already. So yeah, my cat is outside, your cat is outside. We don't get any indication of whether the door is open. If this statement is false, which would require that either my cat is inside or your cat is inside, or both, right? Like if either of these is false, so and I guess, you know, it gets a little bit hairy, but we're gonna like wrap this in parentheses to kind of say like, that this statement is like a composite. So like if this isn't true, we still check if this is true. Okay, so this gets us a bit further. But is there anything kind of like wrong? Well, no, I guess, yeah, no, I think, well, yeah, no, there is still something wrong with this. Okay, so what is still wrong with this? We're kind of like still missing something.
Do you still need to put the my door is open if statement?
Yes. Yeah.
Within the else statement?
Yeah, exactly. Because we don't have anything programmatically like conditioned on this anymore. When I moved it, so I kind of moved it from this outer scope, but then I lost the condition on it, and I just moved it into the else. And the else doesn't condition on anything other than is my cat outside. So yeah, to do that, we want to restore this condition within the else. So the only way we can get to this else, keep in mind, is if the above condition is false, right? So if this is false, then we'll get here and we'll print this if my door is open. But we'll never get here unless the above is false. So if I now make this false, we found our, like, well, and then now it's like 7:36. So I don't want to go too far over time, but I do like this kind of code because I think it's, well, it's kind of the basis of writing programs, because usually this is how you build programs, is you have like a set of rules and conditions on which you want your program to like execute. So you know, it needs to do certain things based on certain conditions. I wanted to get to, you know, first of all, make this statement work. It looks like we still have a bug, so maybe I'll leave that as like an exercise, like an extended exercise if you feel like interested in doing that. But currently our problem is that if, and I'll clear this out to really show it. So if this is true, even if this is false, because of the way we have our code written, we'll still print my cat is outside, and we'll never print my door is open. You can kind of see that here. Yeah. So we're going to print my cat is outside, but we won't print this, even though we want to print it. In this case, if this statement isn't true.
Does the else statement go inside of the is your cat outside if statement? Or yes. Does it go inside of?
Okay, let's try that. Now, do you want me to delete this or do you want me to copy it?
Oh, I think it needs to be moved.
Okay, so we're gonna move the whole thing. Like that?
Yeah, I thought it might need to go inside the is your cat outside?
Oh, like in here.
Well, I guess I don't know how the else statement, like I don't know which one it's yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Oh, the else responds to whatever comes before, not like
Yeah, no, that's right. So it'll what's a good word for it? Yeah, I like response. Yeah, so it's responding to, and the way that I do it in my own, because you can actually write this like this, and some people do this. So some people write them like this, some people write them like this. I usually write them like this. So the way I look at it is like usually with most code editors, you can see the corresponding brace.
okay.
Yeah, so that's how I'll look at it. But if you look here, this brace corresponds with this if statement.
Oh, okay.
The scope of this if statement is separate from the condition that it's evaluating. So for this else to be reached, it only matters whether this is true or false. Nothing that happens inside of here, yeah, will affect this else statement, if that kind of makes it clear.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So it needs to be in both locations, both after the is my cat outside statement. And I don't know. I kind of lost track of it.
No, yeah, this is a pretty difficult. Basically, we kind of touched on up here, especially since we're getting to the end. But I think it's still really good to be able to do this. First of all, I want to introduce like another tool if you do end up trying to do this on your own. So we talked about this else. And we tried to put the if inside of the else. There's another option for this, which is the else if. So what the else if will do is if this is false, it will move to evaluate this statement, but it doesn't necessarily execute this inner scope unless it's also true. I'm just talking about like code in here. So your code in here will not get executed unless this is true. So often you'll see a pattern like this. And code. So maybe a good way to put this would be, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. Okay, so the way I would break this down is like in each of these, right, I'll put like what is true at this point in the code. So at this point in the code, I can only say that the above is true. At this point in the code, the first if statement is false and the above is true. At this point in the code, I can say all of the above are false. So this combination of tools, with this, we can get what we want out of this statement. And I'm not sure if you were kind of like thinking to use this one earlier when you said do the else with the if in it.
I have not seen an else if before. So.
Oh, okay. Great. Oh, great. Yeah, that's also a good tool. The other thing that I wanted to introduce that makes a lot of this easier, that I kind of sort of suggested that with the else, right, is like we have a very difficult time saying when something is not true, other than doing something like, you know, if I wanted to, if you asked me to say, how would I tell you, you know, just using if statements. Now, I'll go ahead and say, by the way, you know, we have operators to kind of, which I'm sure maybe you're probably aware of, like, or maybe you weren't, but there is also a whole suite of logical operators that we can use to make statements like this specifically a lot easier. Like, if we only
but we can
ever
do this without those.
Yes. Yeah.
As well. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But okay. I'll just go ahead and introduce them really quick, just for the sake of this point. But so what I can say is, and I'll actually use parentheses. So I have these are called, this is an OR operator. And then this is, I'm going to use the AND operator here. Oh, whoops. So is my cat outside? And is your cat outside? Or my door is open. This is the quick shorthand way that we can build this exact statement right here.
But how would you know which one to print? Because you're supposed to.
No,
okay.
That's exactly the kind of point that we still need this if logic, but the kind of point with using these operators is, if I only ever care about this particular condition, all this condition means is exactly as it's written out. So if, my cat is outside and your cat is outside, or my door is open. That's all we can say when we reach this statement. Like we can't say anything more, like exactly like you suggested. I mean, we could say stuff like, you know, we could put ifs within here, right? Because we know that, and hopefully this is clear. So what I'm saying here, remember, you know, just keep in mind, whenever you put anything inside of an if statement, it's always got to turn out to be true. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying this and this, is that true? These parentheses will kind of wrap that, and just like order of operations in mathematics, it's going to limit the scope of this operation before we use this operator, this one right here, which is our OR operator. So it's going to limit the result of this operation to evaluate before it's used for this operation. we could take apart these individual operators here and try to do what we were doing above. But the important thing that I want to note, and kind of the point of this whole lesson, is we can't break down each of these individual conditions when we use composite logic like this. The point of using, this is called compound logic. The point of using something like this is if we want to evaluate and execute code on a very particular condition. So like if we only ever want to run code contingent on my cat being outside and your cat being outside, or my door being open, then this is perfect, right? But if we want to break these down individually, we do need to build statements such as the above if we want to do something in each of these cases. Like our print statements. Like if we want to print, like you were suggesting before, like we're not going to be able to print each of them individually. I mean, in this case, we actually kind of can, which is funny. But, you know, we're still doing it within the satisfaction of this statement. And when I say that we still can, what I mean is like, you know, I can still print it and have it tell me, seems to go. You know, I can still have it print only when this is true, right? But that's only if the above condition is met. And as you can see, the above condition isn't met because this isn't true. These both have to be true for this code to be reached at all. So we really do, if we want to unpack certain conditions and run code for individual conditions like this if flow is really what that is meant for. I kind of like condensed that lesson really quickly, but oh, and we're really over time. Sorry about that, but you know, the point being just introducing this kind of flow, this if statement flow. And these are all the if options, by the way. Unless I'm forgetting something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is what we're limited to. So this is everything that you would want to know about if statements, basically. I'm checking now to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, this is pretty much everything that you would be able to do with an if statement, sort of. Yeah, that's kind of all I have today. Yeah, sorry again for going over. Hope that was.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks Celeste for staying longer than planned. I really appreciate it.
No, of course, it's my pleasure. So it was very interesting. I took few notes and I hope I can maybe apply it somewhere.
Yeah,
I definitely gonna be applying it, but it's good to have a refresh. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's great.
All right. Okay. So everybody, thank you so much. And I probably will see you after the holidays. So happy Christmas, happy New Year's, happy holidays.
Yeah, enjoy your holidays, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.